If you're having toilet problems, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 bottles of beer on the wall. I need something more lowbrow. How about a country music intro? All right, put away the cheese. I actually got a toilet here that's giving me a lot of problems. So we're going to cover pretty much everything on a toilet here today. And if you're having problems with a toilet, it'll probably solve yours too, because I am too stubborn to call a plumber. Now, this toilet, I actually did call a plumber for because I was out of town and I had my family here, had 2 toilets plugging up, and we needed to solve that issue. So I had a plumber come. I'll show you what was happening because I'm still having this problem, not quite as bad as it was. I had a plumber auger this toilet out. He pulled a pile of feminine products, as he would say. I think he was afraid to say the word tampon. So the only thing I can think is I've still got something stuck in this toilet, but I'll show you what it's doing here right now. Toilet's a pretty simple device. We'll just quickly cover how a toilet works, and then we'll go from there. Now, before we go too far, I will mention that if you're going to be working on a toilet, I highly suggest scrubbing it out, disinfecting it before you get in there, because we all know what goes on in the bathroom, and you don't want to be breathing any of that in. Now, unless that's your thing, I don't kink shame. You do you. It's not my thing. So this one's all been scrubbed out and we're good to go. All right. Now let's get down and look at this thing and see what's going on. Now, we all know what a toilet looks like. As you see, there's water sitting in the bowl. That water there is the seal between your black pipe, where everything goes, and your room space. Now, if you didn't have that water seal there, if there's no water, you'd have an awful stink inside your house because you'd have all the fumes coming up from that black pipe stinking up your house. So how does that water stay there? Well, it's a simple thing called a P-trap. The reason they call it a P-trap is not because it's different than a poop trap. It's called a P-trap because it is shaped like the letter P, supposedly. But you can actually see from this toilet what exactly the P-trap looks like. So let's real quick just look at that. So there is our P-trap. You can see the indent of this thing through the side of the toilet. This is our toilet bowl up here. This is the reason we have a seal of water sitting in there, is that this is higher than our outlet drain. So what this has to force its way all the way up and through to be able to get any solids or liquids out of there. So that's why the water is able to sit in the bowl, because there's just not enough weight to force that all the way up and around. If we had a straight shot through, everything would just run out and then you'd never have no water seal in your toilet. So generally what happens is you get some sort of pluggage in here, because this is the biggest restriction in your outlet pipe. So you can auger that out and then get everything out. The other thing that can happen is you've got a wax seal under the toilet here that you're not going to be able to see yet. We'll get to it. That can mush itself in and create like a mushroom inside and choke down the whole of the toilet, which means that you can't get as much through. So that can also cause a restriction. I don't know what kind of restriction I have yet, but let's get up and look at it. So here's what happens when this one gets flushed. You can see it just kind of chokes and grows there. It doesn't really get a whole lot of push, if you can tell. It has varying degrees of how terrible it is, but what you saw right there, it's kind of hard to express without actually flushing any solids down there. You can't really tell, but it didn't get a lot of push there. There wasn't a whole lot. Now, the one thing we can check, here's a simple free tip. If you want your toilet to flush better, we're going to open up the top tank, and I'll give you a quick, easy one, free tip on how you can make your toilet flush just a little bit better. So here is the inside of this current toilet, and as you can see, or maybe I don't know if you can tell just looking at it, we'll check in a bit here, but this water level here can come right up to our emergency overflow, and it's actually quite a ways down. It's not even up to the fill line there. So that would be one reason why we don't have as good volume on the flush there, why we can't push as much down. The more water you have inside this tank, the water itself has weight. So that's more weight pushing down that can just all travel down that toilet and carry as much with it as it can. So one simple way to do here is to just, I mean, they all operate a little bit differently, but you'll be able to see there's a float here. that's what shuts the water off there on this valve. Is once this float comes up high enough, it shuts the valve. So what we want to do is run this float up higher here with this adjustment screw, and that'll allow it to come up higher so that the water level will go higher. And basically we can take this water level right up to the top of this overflow pipe here, and that'll give us the maximum volume for flushability there. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that first, and then let's check it again. All right, there we go. I've made some adjustments to the float, and now you can see that water level comes almost right up. That's about as high as it can go before we end up risking spilling over that overflow tube. We don't want it to spill over, because then we're just going to have water running non-stop in this toilet. It's going to sound annoying, and it's going to drive the water bill up. So we got that about perfect there now. So this will flush a little better now. We'll just take a look at the flush, but I didn't plan this. I have adjusted this before. I don't know why that level was back down. It's kind of like a happy little accident, just that I was able to show you that now. We'll show another flush now that we've got that water level up, just so you can see the difference. All right, so here's our reset flush with our high water level. You can tell that ran for a little bit longer. And now we actually have a higher water bowl level there in the toilet as well. So that looks a lot better. But this thing has been a constant issue, non-stop, all over the place. What happened here, I told you I had a plumber come and auger this out and pull out a bunch of tampons, essentially. They were jammed up in the toilet. I don't know who still thinks you can flush tampons in this day and age, but I don't recommend it. So I'll show you the auger here real quick. This is something cheap, easy tool you can get and clean out most of your problems with that. Now, here's our toilet auger. Pretty simple tool. They're very cheap. You can pick it up at a hardware store for like 20 bucks. Good thing to have in the garage, just hanging out at home for when you need it. Now, most people's go-to is going to be a plunger. Now, plunger works if you just have a mild stick in the P-trap, like I mentioned to you when we were looking at that. You're just going to go ahead and plunge that, and what you're doing is just sucking it, moving that solids back and forth a little bit till some air can break through, and then there you go. It'll just kind of, it'll get things moving. Now, if you got something actually jammed, you know, your kid flushed a toothbrush down there or whatever, like a plunger's not going to cut it. You need something that's going to go ahead and actually drag things out. So this works pretty simple. It's just a long coil spring, essentially, that can move in and out, right? This is our handle. That pulls our spring in and out. We're just going to shove that down in the toilet bowl. So we start with the spring all the way in, shove that into our toilet bowl, and then basically we're going to go ahead and shove that coil spring down, spin it around, give it some spins and some pulls. Go ahead and be a little rough with it. Now that coil's going to go all the way through the P-trap and around and under into the flange, into the floor. That's how long it is. So what this should do is go ahead and wrap itself around anything that's in there, like tampon strings or a toothbrush or whatever, and, you know, go ahead and grab it and yank it. Now, and then you pull it back out this way. I've never been able to get anything with an auger here. Like I said, the plumber originally pulled out like 7 strings out of there. I've never been able to get anything else, but this toilet continues to flush very poorly. Sometimes you'll see it. It didn't do it this time, but it'll gurgle a bit. You'll see once you flush it, it'll sit there gurgling. And it almost seemed like it had a vent issue where it wasn't allowed to vent. So it couldn't pull air back, and it was just gurgling there like it was pulling a vacuum. But the plumber assured me that was not the case. So the only thing I can think is that there's something still jammed in that flange hole under, like either in the P-trap or in the toilet flange to the floor, and we just can't get it out. Every other toilet in the house flushes completely fine. So it has to be here located at this toilet. It's not in the main black pipe for the house. So the next step is going to be to just go ahead and yank this toilet right off its housing here and then really inspect things and see what's going on. Now, before you get ahead of yourself and go ripping and tearing and yanking the toilet off the floor, get yourself a wax seal first so that you can reseal the toilet and you're not going to be running to Home Depot in the middle of your job with the toilet sitting off the floor and the vent pipe stinking up the house. So I've got, well, I don't know, this is just what they had on the shelf there at Home Depot. It's an Odie. This is a fancy one, I guess. Usually they're just wax. This one has an actual flange there that fits into the flange on the floor to locate the seal. So it's kind of hard to screw it up, right? It's not going to slide around or move and then not seal the toilet properly. The other thing you want to look out for when you are purchasing a seal is that if you're in an older house that's been renovated, a lot of times they will lay vinyl plank floor on top of existing flooring, but your flange for your toilet still sits down in the actual subfloor there. So what would happen is you got an extra thick space you have to fill underneath the toilet, and they make extra double thick wax rings to fill that space. And if you don't have a thick enough one, your toilet won't seal because it's not going to make contact with the wax seal. So just make sure you get the right one. Get both if you have to, if you're unsure, and you can always return the one you don't use later. That's Home Depot. I think they allow you to do that, so shouldn't be a problem. Now, toilet's pretty easy to take off. First thing we're going to do, shut the water off. There's our water valve here. Some of them are an actual knob. This one's a simple quarter turn. Got the water off. Next thing we want to do, we don't want to take this toilet off and have water pouring everywhere. We want the least amount we can get. So we're going to go ahead and give her a flush. Try to drain that top tank as much as we can. I'm holding that just to let everything run out. And of course, because of our P-trap, you're always going to have your little water bowl level left there. So we are going to have some water to deal with when this toilet comes off. So can't hurt to have a few towels around. Don't use the wife's good ones. I don't think they'll like that. But we got some junk ones for the garage we can use just to mop up any residual water. Next, we just got 2 bolts. One on one side, one on the other. Mine are 1/2 inch. Go ahead and yank those off, and that's it. This toilet's coming up and out of the way. Well, there you go. Toilet's out of the way. There's our hole, and this, what looks like a stain here, just for your information, it's not pee stain all under there seeping under the toilet. That's just how filthy it was under there when the builder first installed this toilet in the house after doing the flooring. So, kind of nice. But I'll be able to clean that up now and feel better about that. So, first things first, while we're open here, I'm just going to go ahead and look in this hole. And I don't see any immediate restrictions there. So, the next step is just to get a look at the P-trap in this toilet. Now, before I get too carried away, I got the chop vac in here, and we're just going to go ahead and suck out the residual water that's in this thing. Let's not mix that up with the drinking water. All right, now we're dry. We should be able to flip this over a little bit here and get a look inside the back of this thing. Now, when it comes to porcelain, I am always a little bit worried about potentially breaking something. So I got a towel underneath this so that I can tilt this back and get a look up her back end. But yeah, it's relatively, I don't know, brittle. So I am kind of worried always about cracking these sort of things. Put her down nice and gentle. All right. Now we can inspect the undercarriage here. All right. Colonoscopy cam going in. So there's the exit of our P-trap. And it's not going to focus very well there, but like that's it. It just goes right up the hoop there, and that's it. I don't see anything. There shouldn't be anything plugging this up. Now, as I mentioned, there's our wax seal. I'm going to go ahead and remove that and replace it now that I've had the toilet off. But what can happen sometimes, you see the hole there, sometimes that wax can actually mush itself in when the toilet mushes against it, and that'll cause a restriction. But as you see, if you can't tell, there is no restriction there. So that's a little worrisome because I've never had a good experience with this toilet here ever since we had the issue. The plumber came out, charged me $700 to auger a toilet. So I figured, what the heck, can't hurt for me to take a look. But we don't see any restrictions here. So the only other step, if this keeps causing me issues, is to go down to the pump out in the basement and have someone run a camera in it and take a look. But for now, that's it. I'm cleaning up this area. Toilet's going back on. Maybe we always had a low water issue with this thing like we saw when we changed the water level, and that's just why it's been such a poor flushing toilet. So I'm going to go ahead, get it back on because we have no issue with the toilet itself. And maybe we fix nothing. All right, got the old proctology gloves on here. I don't want to get any of this on my hands if there's anything there to worry about. Just going to go ahead and just reach with 2 fingers inside and grab this lip. That's it. It's just like our new seal, right? It's got the flange that fits in there, the locator flange. Just yank it out, and we'll just, we can just go ahead and pick the rest of this seal off here, this wax. It's all just new wax going on, and it's like, doesn't have to be perfect here, but couldn't hurt to use a little scraper or whatever just to get the residual off. Bit of a mess. Try to keep it in our hands. Here we go. Get rid of this. Get the new one in. All right. Here's our new seal. Like I say, it's got a nice wrap on there, so I don't have to get my hands all full of wax. I'm gonna stick that locator flange down in the hole. Peel our cover off. Make sure that's centered and in the right spot. Now I can just clean up around this hole and shove the toilet back in place. Now, the main thing to worry about with this going back on is just dropping it down as flush as we possibly can, because you don't want to tilt too far one way or the other so that you mush the backside, say, of the wax seal and mush that down too far. By the time you pull it flush, that it never quite seals right then. So I'm trying to drop it flush so that it mushes down all in the same plane, and then we can make sure we get a good seal that way. Waddle over here. Good thing I ate my Wheaties today. Line up our flange bolt holes there. There. That should be in place. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just give this a little press. So it comes down to the floor. And that's it. We can do up our flange bolts and hook up the water. Well, there you go. She's all back together. Our water level came up to just the perfect spot that we want. It actually looks like we got a nice, good, powerful flush there. We have no more gurgling in that toilet. And things are looking good. Alright guys, that's it for this one. So what we had was a low water level that was giving us a low power flush. So that's your simple free tip there, is just make sure you have a lot of water in your tank so that you can use that water to flush. Now, I don't know how clickbaity I'll make this, but what I wanted to do was just go through the whole thing with you so that if you're looking at something like this and it's intimidating because you don't generally do a lot of stuff around your own house, it's something you've never done before, you just saw it all. It's actually not as much as you're making it out to be. It's pretty easy. So I hope that can give you some confidence. If you're looking at this and you're maybe afraid to touch it, it's not that hard. Just go ahead and dive in and do it. There's not much you can break there. So instead of calling a plumber, like, what did I tell you? I called a plumber originally to go ahead and auger this toilet out, and I had 2 toilets that were plugged up originally. I had a $700 bill for a plumber to come auger 2 toilets. The auger that I just showed you at the start there, that we just gave it a few reams, right? And that's that. It's a pretty simple job. So maybe your other free tip is go become a plumber. Good money, I guess. But that's it for today, guys. I'm signing off. I hope you learned something. I hope it all worked out. I hope your own project works out for you. And don't be afraid of them toilets. Catch me next time.